What's a secret you found out that you were 100% not supposed to know? 1. My uncle was killed, shot outside a bar. I never understood why people didn't care about finding the killer, which confused me as an adult. I learned that my uncle had raped women, and one of them shot him. 2. Someone I was very close to and deeply loved got drunk and told me their darkest secret, apparently. Their godfather was basically a mafia boss, and he had witnessed them killing someone right in front of him. Afterward, he was forced to help bury the body somewhere in the California desert. He said I was the only person he ever told and had planned never to tell anyone. The next day, he blocked my phone number and social media. I barely heard from him again after spending time together multiple times a week for over a year. It was really dark, and I wonder if he did it for my safety more than his own. 3. My dad killed his best friend in a drunk driving accident when he was 22. My dad spent years in a wheelchair and time in prison. He completely changed his life before I was born. With 30 years of sobriety, over 20 gallons of blood donated, and countless selfless acts. But I was never supposed to know. My dad became a different person before I was born. But he once told my mom when he broke down in his 30s. Then my mom told my brother because my brother was driving drunk. Then my brother told me. I still pretend I don't know. My dad deserves the life he's built now, trying to be a good person every day. I wish I didn't know. It still lives in my mind. 4. My dad was in prison for manslaughter before he met my mom. How did I find out? Just by Googling his name. Was it really him? Yes, there was a mugshot. I haven't told anyone in the family, but it sure explains a lot about him. Now, both my parents are gone. I wonder if my mom ever knew. 5. My ex's uncle killed a man, maybe 2. He was driving on the highway, and these guys tried to carjack him. But he was armed, so he shot at them and fled the scene. Then went on living his normal life. I'm pretty sure my ex wasn't supposed to tell me, but she did. 6. My grandma died when I was about 10. All I knew was that she was found in the bathroom. I never questioned it my whole life. People die and are found in bathrooms all the time. I thought maybe she slipped or had a heart attack. Decades later, I was having dinner with my sister, and for some reason, she felt the need to tell me what she found out from her mom. My grandma had severe osteoporosis and was always in excruciating pain. One day, she decided she'd had enough. She filled the bathtub, took all her painkillers, slipped into the water, and killed herself. I could have lived my whole life without knowing that. I still don't understand why my sister felt about the need to tell me. 7. I have brothers. One of them, drunk, told me the reason he doesn't talk to the other brother is because that brother slept with his girlfriend at the time. He only found out when he was using an old laptop his brother lent him, and the iCloud messages weren't deleted. He was confused when he saw his girlfriend's name in the messages. My parents don't know this is why they fought. They think it's something else. 8. I had a short friendship with a girl in middle school. One day, she confided in me that her mom didn't let her eat at home, and her sister, who went to school with us, would tell their mom if she ate at school, and she'd get beaten for eating. She begged me not to tell anyone. I told my dad on the drive home, and within a few days, she disappeared, and I never saw her again. I don't know if my dad called the police, or if someone else did, or if something worse happened. 9. My grandma instinctively knew that my brother abused me from when I was about 2 to 10 years old. She told my mom, and my mom didn't believe her, just like when I told my grandma, and she pretended the conversation never happened. My grandma kept me at her place as much as possible. Holidays, summers, weekends, etc. Well, I knew she loved me more than anything. As an adult, I realized she was keeping him away from me. I'm pretty sure this is why my grandma and mom didn't get along, and why my grandma hated my brother. 10. I was hanging out with my cousin one night 20 years ago. I was in my 40s. She got drunk and told me she'd been sleeping with another cousin of ours since they were in high school. I stopped hanging out with her and him after that. Gross. 10 years later, at a family reunion, his wife got drunk and they started arguing. She told everyone that those two were sleeping together and showed the family pictures of them in positions that she got from his cloud. Disgusting. Now everyone knows. The female cousin cried out of embarrassment. The male cousin was humiliated and left. They later divorced. The female cousin moved across the country. The male cousin lives alone and doesn't talk to anyone. I have a weird family. 11. 2 jobs ago, I was outside making a phone call when one of the few women in the building walked by. I saw her get into a minivan and drive off. I was still on the phone when I saw her step out of her minivan in a parking lot 2 blocks away, within view, and get into another car. A few days later, I saw that car in our parking lot, and I saw another co-worker step out of it. It seems that they'd been having an affair for a while and weren't really hiding it too well anymore. Her last name changed on her nameplate about 6 months later. She was pretty attractive, and I believe she could have done better. I don't know if they're still together, but I doubt it. 12. My dad was involved in a gang rape at a party, but was acquitted for some reason. He was pretty secretive in my early years. Now I know why. I found this out last summer. I'm 35 now, and can't look at him the same way anymore. 13. My cousin raped his niece and got her pregnant. They were both teenagers at the time. His mom, the grandmother, had custody of her. She was a monster and raised narcissistic sociopaths. She made the girl sleep on the floor next to her bed. So how this happened is unforgivable. Then she forced her to give up the baby, who had issues due to inbreeding. This happened 4 years ago, and we only found out because she's now an adult and finally spoke up about it. 14. One of my old bosses was having an affair. One afternoon, I saw him and a woman walk out of a movie theater, holding hands and kissing before going their separate ways. A few months later, he introduced me to a different woman, who was his wife. 15. My mom had an affair with a married man, and I caught them having sex. 16. My 2 elderly aunts weren't sisters living together, but were actually lesbians. They passed away in their 90s about a decade ago. It came out when one had to go into a nursing home, and they didn't want to be separated. It's sad to think they had to hide it all those years, but I'm glad they got to live together for most of their lives. 17. I found my sister-in-law's non-anonymous Reddit username, where she was bad-mouthing me. 18. When I was a kid, I was told my grandfather was killed at home in a botched burglary. Later, I found out through my own internet research that he was actually killed in a botched drug deal. He was the drug dealer. 19. My dad passed away suddenly, and while trying to sort out his affairs, his kids discovered his years-long, 3 years prior, hookups with gay men through Craigslist. Then they found 3 burner phones. Oh my gosh. Strict Catholic family. 2. My mom was a horrific narcissist who raised her kids to be homophobic. Wonder why? She totally knew. But divorce is a sin. They lived miserable lives because of religion and worrying about how they'd look in their community. 20. When I was about 13, many years ago, my parents told me that the man I knew as my dad wasn't my biological dad. My mom said my real dad was an alcoholic who couldn't hold a job, so she left him and eventually remarried someone else. I didn't think much of it because my stepdad was awesome and I grew up in a very loving family. Years passed, and I'd occasionally Google my biological dad's name. Nothing came up until one day I found out that around the time I was born, he went to prison for assault. Later, he was pardoned, then raped and killed someone. From what I know, he's still alive and on death row. But I rarely think about that situation. I know I was lucky to have a much better life than I would have had if he'd been around. 21. Recently, my family found out that our grandfather had an affair over 50 years ago, resulting in a secret child being born, and our grandfather losing his job. Everyone was shocked, but they don't know that the reason it was kept secret for so long wasn't just because it was an affair, but because the child's mother was underage. 22. The CEO at my old company was a 100% fraud. Fake degree, fake resume, fake accent, everything fake. He was terrible at his job, but kept failing upward because of his lies. And at some point, he'd gained enough power and influence that no one checked his background. 23. My friend's dad killed his mom. He was raised by his aunt, his mom's sister. He doesn't know. 24. My mom was raped at 13 by the pastor's 19-year-old son at church camp. He was caught in the act. Then they blamed her. And when they found out she was pregnant, they forced her to have an abortion. Nothing happened to the rapist. My grandma, who had dementia, told me while thinking she was talking to my mom. We look pretty similar. I've never told my mom I know. 25. When I was a kid, my uncle went to prison for something I didn't know about at the time. My grandma would take me to visit him occasionally, not often, as it was my dad's side of the family, who I saw every other weekend. I always asked why he was in prison, but they just said I was too young to know. Years later, I found out he had inappropriate pictures of his daughter on his computer. Probably more than that. The messed up part is he's still with the girl's mom. 26. That my mom assisted in a back alley abortion for a young girl, and she died. It was the sister of her best friend. The father of the baby was a close family member. She was about 11 or 12. They got her drunk and laid her on the floor. They used a tube in her vagina to expose her cervix and used a coat hanger, moving it around until she started bleeding. The girl was fine for a few days, then passed out at school and died of sepsis. There were no consequences because no one talked, and the cause was attributed to tonsillitis, which she had at the time. 27. Found out my dad had an affair with a woman when I was 7, and later, when I was about 13, found out He'd had affairs with 4 different women behind my mom's back. I told my mom, and she said she already knew. When I was about 8, 11, I found out my mom was having an affair with another man. They broke up when I was 13, but have been back together for over 6 years now. As far as I know, my dad is still having an affair. That woman and he have been together for even longer than my parents have known each other. My mom had an abortion before I was born because my dad didn't want kids at all. He never wanted kids. 28. My dad slept with my uncle's wife while my uncle was in prison. She got pregnant with my dad's child and then had an abortion. My dad doesn't know about the abortion. He also doesn't know that my uncle knows about the affair. My uncle and his wife had a kid together before he went to prison. We all think she might be my dad's kid. 2. This happened around 2008. It's crazy that they don't talk about it and are still close. 29. A classmate told me that his friend was bragging about getting his sister to show him her private parts and masturbate for him because she got caught shoplifting and didn't want their parents to find out. 30. My school's gym teacher was having an affair with a 15-year-old guy in my grade. She wrote about it in her diary, about the size of his penis, etc., and brought the diary on a school trip, left it in the dorm room, and her friend read it. It was weird. I noticed she changed a lot around that time. Much harsher, cold,